quite a lot of reward monetarily. So I think it's clear they were all killed. So I mean, they were fighting in this. You know, they thought the angels were going to come down and fight with them. Then another section was talking about the Gospel of Judas. And everyone had all the writers who had written about the Gospel of Judas up there, James Robinson and a woman from Harvard who we offered, actually, we were going to hire her here, but she got hired over at Occidental and she went to Harvard. I forget her name, starts with C. She's in all the women's lib sort of sessions that you get. And the woman who writes about the Gnostic Gospels, Elaine Pagels, and then Marv Meyer here, who was on that television broadcast by he also wanted to work here at Cal State some time back. And I think we should have hired him, actually. I regret that decision. He's at that college, Chapman College. He's at Chapman College. And there were around 8 other people that they had up there. The fellow from North Carolina who was on the National Geographic television show, do you remember that one? He's pretty well known now. Can't remember his name. Anyway, I ended up, they again had the thing, is there any questions around hundreds and hundreds of people in this room? It was late at night, last night about 9, and I looked around, nobody had any questions. They were all sort of logged by this panel, so I put my foot in my mouth and asked a question. But I think I won't tell you what the question was, but it had to do with the fact that this Gnostic gospel, they were all heaping abuse on this Gnostic gospel, which is about Judas and whether it's historical, and they were saying, well, it's not as historical as the Gospels, of course, they were all saying, or some of them were saying, then others were saying, well, you know, it's really surprising that all the discoveries that one makes in terms of ancient manuscript finds are always sectarian texts. Where's the Orthodox text? How come we don't find any early copies of the Orthodox text? You mean everyone at this time was only reading sectarian texts? And nobody, of course, had an answer for that. Why hasn't anyone ever found any Orthodox texts? And, you know, it's only sectarian texts found in, you know, heaps of debris or caves or various other places. So we don't really have that many old versions of the Gospels, or certainly not a Book of Acts anywhere, any of those materials. I just kind of said, since this is literary, since you're all saying this is literary, and it is a literary polemic, you know, they were arguing whether Judas is portrayed as good because he turns in Jesus and does what Jesus wants him to do, so Jesus can escape the body in a Gnostic way, or is he bad? And so some of them were saying that he's the hero, and others were saying he's actually the demon, and they were arguing. I was saying, you know, well, since this is a literary polemic, clearly, and you know, it shows that the literature of this was obviously a 2nd century AD document, that the literature was ongoing. You know, how come you don't consider it all literary? Why do you suddenly consider some of it historical or ahistorical and others non-historical? Isn't this a literary polemic going on back and forth? Needless to say, I didn't get a lot of enthusiasm with that question, but I really enjoyed it. And I won't tell you what the answers were and so on and so forth, but I think I was the only person of Jewish background in the whole room. But they were a very, very nice group of people other than that particular, I don't think they had a response to that particular question, actually. They were too committed, too committed. Anyway, so let's go back. We want to talk about the Damascus document. And I think the best way to do it is just start reading it. So I'm going to reread, you can follow it in any translation you want, but I'm going to do it from my translation at the back of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the First Christians. And you should have a translation in front of you. The main reason why you need a translation in front of you is so you can mark it. It's just like the Bible. You don't want to waste your time looking in notes about what a given sentence says when you can just write it or underline it or circle it. You know, I can't my original copy of Vermesh's early work, when I didn't have my own translations to work from, it looks a bit like that, you know, and you know, so that I have comments in there. I don't probably need them much anymore. I have comments in there that you know, so I won't forget what it is I saw in the first place. What document? Yeah, this is the first page of the Damascus document. And this is a little teeny. That's why I recovered this book and everything. Wasn't that I wanted to lose his translation? I could have bought many of those. I didn't want to lose the comments, the margin notes. They already did, huh? Well, you know, if you've ever looked at the Talmud, you'll find that half the Talmud is margin notes. I don't know if you ever noticed that. The Talmud is written sort of like this. The Talmud is the Jewish sort of doctrine document that the rabbis work on after the fall of the temple, and basically the Talmud develops side by side with New Testament materials. Not only the Gospels and the Book of Acts and Paul's letters, but also all the early church writings as well. So they're all developing from the 2nd century to the 6th century. And that's when Rabbinic Judaism is developing too. But if you know, the Talmud is written like this. And I understand that. You've got a central text called the Mishnah in the middle, which is a sort of the oral law, supposedly. You know. It's the Pharisaic tradition handed down from Pharisaic teachers. And then the comments of the schools written in the margin all around the central text. And I really appreciate the fact that sort of thing. I mean, I understand where that's coming from. I don't know if you guys do, but that to me is really important. Okay, remember the Damascus document? If you have in your books a version of it, you'll see that it's called CD in the code of the Dead Sea Scroll writers. Why is it called CD? Cairo, Damascus. And what does that mean? Found in the Cairo Geniza. And I told you what a Geniza was, but just to repeat, where Jews would secret books away, a secret hiding place or a place of deposit, not to hide them from others, but because they had the name of God written in them, normally prayer books or other things, they were not, you couldn't destroy them. You had to give them a burial. You had to give them a decent burial, or you couldn't burn them or throw them in the garbage pail or anything like that, or rip them up. But among other things, there were also marriage contracts, correspondences from all over the Mediterranean, and it's really incredible. Someone did 3